Let me ask you a question. When was the last time you actually wrote something in French? Not typed, not copied and pasted into Google Translate, not saved a vocabulary list on your phone. I mean, actually picked up a pen, opened a book, and wrote. If your answer is, honestly, Sumo, I can't remember, then this video is for you. Si tu as découvert ma chaîne pour la première fois, salut, je suis Sumo Lua. J'ai appris le français à l'âge adulte et grâce à cette langue, j'ai pu m'installer au Canada. Aujourd'hui, j'ai des centaines d'étudiants dans divers pays à apprendre le français et à progresser dans leur parcours linguistique. And so today, I want to talk about one of the most underrated skills when learning a language. And you know what that skill is? Writing. And hold on. Before you click away and think, oh, Sumo, I don't want to become a writer. I just want to speak French. Just stay with me, okay? Because writing might actually be one of the fastest ways to improve your speaking. And trust me, I know that sounds strange because when people talk about learning a language, they usually talk about 4 things. I mean, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, right? But writing is often treated like the last child nobody pays attention to. Everybody wants to speak. Everybody wants to understand native speakers. Everybody wants to watch French movies without subtitles. But nobody wants to actually sit down with a pen and paper. And today, I'm going to show you why that might actually be a mistake. Because writing does something very powerful in your brain. It forces you to slow down. It forces you to notice. And it forces you to interact with the language. I'm also going to share something I personally did while preparing for my TEF exam. And later, while preparing for my DALF C1 exam. That completely changed the way I learned French. And so if you're learning French and you feel like, oh, I know so many words, but I can't use them. Oh, I understand French, but I can't form sentences. Oh, I keep forgetting vocabulary. Get your notebook because you're going to want to write something down. Now, before we continue, I want you to think about something. Most language learners today are collecting information. We have apps, we have flashcards, we have screenshots, we have vocabulary lists. Our phones are full of French words. But here's the question. How many of those words can you actually use? Because there's a huge difference between recognizing a word and owning a word. For example, maybe you've seen the word épuisé. You know it means exhausted. Maybe you've said it before, maybe you've added it to Anki, maybe you even liked an Instagram post about it. But then somebody asks you, comment ça va aujourd'hui? And suddenly your brain says, wait, what was that word again? Why does this happen? Because seeing a word is not the same as building a relationship with that word. And that's where writing comes in. Now, let me share something fascinating with you. Researchers in Norway carried out a study to understand what happens in our brains when we write by hand compared to when we type. Participants learned words in 2 different ways. One group wrote the words by hand. The other group typed the exact same words on a keyboard. While they were doing this, the researchers recorded their brain activity using an EEG cap with hundreds of sensors. And what they found was really interesting. When people wrote by hand, many different parts of the brain became active and started communicating with one another, especially the areas linked to learning and memory. When they typed the same words, much of that activity simply wasn't there. Now, does this mean typing is bad? Not at all. Typing is useful. Technology is amazing, but handwriting creates a richer learning experience. I mean, think about it. When you write a word, your brain is doing several things at once. Your eyes are looking at the word, your hand is controlling the movement, your fingers are creating every letter, you're paying attention to the spelling, the accents, the spacing, the shape of the word. Your brain is combining movement, vision, and touch at the same time. But typing is different. Every key press feels almost identical. And so your brain has fewer signals to work with. And when you're learning a language, those extra connections really matter. Because languages aren't just information, they're patterns. The richer the experience, the easier it becomes for your brain to remember those patterns later. Now, let me bring this back to my own experience because this is something I genuinely did. When I was preparing for my TEF exam and later when I was preparing for my DALF C1 exam, I spent a lot of time reading French articles. Sometimes I'd find an article I really liked and instead of, just reading it once and moving on, I'd actually copy parts of it into my notebook. Looking back now, I don't think I fully understood why it was helping me. I just knew it was, but now I actually realized what was happening. Every time I copied a paragraph, I was slowing myself down enough to actually notice things I would have normally skipped. I mean, I'd noticed expressions I'd never seen before. I'd noticed how French writers connected one idea to another. I'd notice sentence structure, I'd notice where adjectives were placed, I'd notice punctuation, something so small, right? And even notice those tiny little words that make French sound so natural. And after seeing those patterns over and over again, I didn't have to force myself to remember them anymore. They simply started feeling familiar. And that's the power of writing. You're not just memorizing words, you're training your brain to remember patterns. Now, somebody might be thinking, but Suma, I don't want to write, I just want to speak. And I completely understand, trust me. But I want to ask you something. Have you ever been in a French conversation where you knew exactly what you wanted to say, but you couldn't put the sentence together? That's where writing helps. Writing gives you a safe space to produce the language. When you're speaking, everything happens quickly. Someone's waiting for your answer. There's pressure. But when you're writing, you can slow down. You can think. You can make mistakes. You can correct yourself. You can ask, should I use être or avoir here? Does this adjective go before or after the noun? Is this the right tense? You're strengthening the exact muscles you need when it's time to speak. Writing is like going to the gym before the match. You build the muscles first and then speaking becomes easier. So now the question becomes, what should you actually write? Because I know some of you are thinking, okay, Sumo, I get it, writing helps, but what exactly am I supposed to write? Fantastic question. Over the years, there are a few writing habits that completely change the way I learn French. And honestly, the first one is probably the biggest mistake I see beginners make. When I first started learning French, I used to write vocabulary like this. I'll just write cat is chat, house is maison, probably to be afraid is avoir peur. And if you're doing this, you're not alone. Almost every language learner has done it at some point. But here's the problem. You're memorizing translations, not language. Because honestly, a week from now, there's a good chance you'd have forgotten most of that list. So instead, write the word inside a sentence. J'ai un chat noir. Ma maison est près du centre-ville. Or instead of writing avoir peur, which means to be afraid, you can write quand j'étais enfant, j'avais peur des chiens. And now you've learned much more than one word. You've learned vocabulary, you've learned grammar, sentence structure, verb conjugation. And so that's how language is actually used, because your brain remembers ideas far better than isolated words. And now method 2, what I would advise is copy one French paragraph every day or every other day, because I know that we're all busy, okay? You can start off by reading something short in French, perhaps an article, a paragraph, a caption. Find something interesting and physically write out the sentence or phrases that are new to you. You're not copying just to copy, you're copying to slow your brain down, to notice, to absorb the sentence patterns, to build movement memory of those words. Please, please, please pay attention to the vocabulary, the expressions, the sentence structures, the little words French speakers naturally use. Those are the things that eventually become part of your own French. Now, I'm going to show you something. I want you to watch my screen for a second. So watch my screen for a second. This is one of my favorite websites for practicing French reading. It's called Easy French News. What I love about it is that it gives you the same news story at different language levels. So let's say I open this article. You can see this is a new article. Right here, you notice I can choose A1, A2, B1, or C1. Let's start with the A1 level. I click on this. I want to scroll down. You see? Do you see how simple the sentences are? If you're a beginner, this is perfect. I would simply read this paragraph and write 2 or 3 sentences into my notebook. Do you see? This is just A1, it's simple. Now let's click on A2. Do you see that it's the same story, just a little more vocabulary, slightly longer sentences, okay? Now let's click on B1. You can already see it's becoming much more natural, more connectors, more detail. And then finally, let's click on C1. Ooh la la. Same topic, same story, but now you're reading the kind of French you might find in newspapers or magazines. And that's what I really love about this website. This video is not sponsored by them, by the way. I'm just explaining what I use and I found really interesting. You don't need to spend hours looking for the perfect article. You simply just choose your level, read one short paragraph, and write a few lines into your notebook. Maybe 5 minutes, one article, one pen, one notebook, and that's it. Now, method 3. Summarize it in your own words. Now here's where the real learning happens. After you've copied the paragraph, right? Close the article, don't look at it. Now try to summarize what you just read in your own words. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't even have to be the same sentences. The goal is to see what you can produce using the vocabulary and expressions you just learned. Maybe you remember one expression. Maybe you remember just 2 sentences. Maybe you realize, I understood this article, but I don't actually know how to say it myself. And that's exactly the point. When you're done, go back to the original article, compare what you wrote, look at the words you missed, look at the expressions you want to add to your own French. Every difference becomes a lesson. You're no longer just reading, you're actively producing the language. Now, the next method, keep a French journal. I really like this. You can see I'm doing my little dance. This is one of the easiest habits you can build. Every evening, write 5 simple sentences about your day. For example, you could write, Aujourd'hui, j'ai travaillé toute la journée. J'ai préparé le dîner avec ma famille. J'ai regardé une vidéo en français sur YouTube. Ce soir, j'ai regardé une vidéo de FrenchArena et j'ai appris de nouvelles expressions. Je suis fière de mes progrès en français. So do you see? Absolutely nothing fancy. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is consistency. The more you write, the easier it becomes to express yourself naturally. And now method 5. This is quite interesting. I would say write before you speak. But hear me out, okay? I recommended this habit to some of my students, and each student differs. So let me just give a caveat there. It depends on the student and depends on you as a person. Before you have a conversation about a topic, what I would advise is write your answer first. So for example, if today's speaking topic is describe your hometown, write your answer, then read it aloud, and then just say it without looking. So by the time you have the real conversation, your brain has already organized your ideas, and then you notice that speaking becomes much easier. And so here's my challenge for you. For the next 7 days, spend just 10 minutes writing in French. And to make it easier for you, I'm going to put the challenge up here. So just take a screenshot of this, okay? It's very helpful. Day 1, write 5 sentences about yourself. Day 2, copy 1 short French paragraph. Day 3, rewrite it from memory. Day 4, write about your day. Day 5, describe your childhood. Day 6, write your opinion about something simple. Day 7, go back and read everything you've written. And I promise you'll notice progress, not because you've studied harder, but because you've spent 7 days actively producing the language. And so if you've been wondering why you keep forgetting French vocabulary, maybe the problem is that you have a bad memory. Maybe you've simply never given your brain enough opportunities to work with the language. And writing forces you to slow down. Like I said earlier, it forces you to notice. It forces you to build sentences instead of just simply recognizing words. And over time, that's exactly what helps French become a language you can actually use. And so finally, if you're thinking, okay, so thank you, this all makes sense, but how do I know what I should actually be studying? And how do I know I'm learning the right things for my level? That's exactly why I created my French Fluency guide. Inside the guide, I walk you through a clear roadmap from A1 all the way to C1, so you're never guessing what to study next. I've also included in the guide favorite websites and reading resources that have helped me improve my French over the years. And the goal is simple. The guide was created to help you study with confidence instead of feeling overwhelmed. If you like it, you can just click the link in the description box below. It's the first link under this video. Just click it. And these are just a few of the messages I've received from students who have used the guide to bring more structure to their French learning. And now I would love to hear from you. What's one writing habit you're going to start this week? Let me know in the comment section below. And if your next question is, thank you so much for writing videos, Sumo, but what should I actually be reading in French? Because probably you love reading and reading goes together. Then you can click on my next video. In that video, I break down exactly how to choose the right books and reading materials for your level so you can keep building your vocabulary naturally without feeling overwhelmed. Also in that video, I give you the links to where you can get some of these books because I'm building a beautiful French library right here now. And I think it'd be great if we all had more than one book in our arsenal so that we can reread and just have fun with the language. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If today's video helped you, please hit that like button as it helps more learners find this content. And go ahead and please subscribe if you want more practical French lessons like this. I post new videos every week. Until I see you in my next video, bonjour.